Hi guys, my name is Christian. Hopefully you are all doing well. So my buddy Ermin Hamidovic has just released a new plugin through his company Submission Audio, which is probably most known for their awesome sampled bass libraries. But this time around it's something completely different. It is a plugin called Flatline, and it is a limiter which is said to mimic the sound of how a high-end converter sound while being clipped, because that has really been the secret sauce for mastering engineers around the world to get insane levels of LUFS while retaining the overall feel of the mix. So it will be really interesting to see if Flatline can deliver that in the digital domain. So in today's episode we are going to take a look at the plugin itself, and I've also done a comparison between a couple of the more popular limiters on the market. We got the Fabfilter L2, which has been my go-to limiter for a couple of years. We got the Kclip3, Ozone9, and also my unlimited mix, so we can have a comparison to see how the different limiters impact the mix. And if you have come here to see or hear how hard we can push these limiters, you've come to the wrong place. Ever since the streaming services have started to normalize their playback levels, there is really no point of pushing your masters to an absurd level of LUFS. I usually aim for at around -10 to -11 LUFS. I think that's the level where you get that brick wall sound, which most of us, at least I, have grown to like, but you don't have to do any trade-offs like you have to if you are pushing below -9. Then you have to start to think about the bass, and you can get all kind of bad artifacts at those levels. So the examples that I'm gonna show you here today is set at -10.5 LUFS. I did LUFS readings on all the files so we get an equal level. I pulled them down so we can compare them to my unmastered mix as well. And as always, I will be sharing the raw files so you can download them. You'll find a link in my description, both to the loop that I'm going to showcase here on the episode, but I also included a longer file if you want to have a look at that. So let's jump into Pro Tools so we can check out the plugin and do the comparison. Okay, so here we have the Flatline plugin. Very straightforward, just a handful of features that you can play around with. You got the threshold here, which is how you push the volume of your mix. You get an oversampling option here, which I think sounds better at 4 times oversampling. I have not done an A/B comparison, but if you feel that it doesn't tax your CPU that hard, I'd say go for it. And here on the right side you have a couple of meters and also a LUFS indicator. And the most interesting feature of the Flatline plugin is the shape button. Set at 100% you get hard clipping, which means that the signal will flatline when you are exceeding the threshold. And at 0% you get soft clipping, which should smooth out your transients and just glue your mix together. So we'll start at 100% here, and then I'll pull it back to around 80%, just so you guys can see what will happen with the mix. This mix is very clean. It almost got that mid-2000 Andy Sneap snare sound, which have a lot of transients, which I probably should have tried to control a tiny bit more in the mix stage. But here we go. I think it's a fine enough example to use, so let's start it off. We'll do it one more time. We'll start at 80 and go back to 100%. So you can definitely use it as a shape tool of your transients, and I do think it glues very nicely on this mix when I pulled the shape button back a tiny bit. But you should not overdo this. You should sit around 100 to an 85%. If you go below that, you should really revisit your mix and fix it there. Okay, so let's jump over to the loop comparison. So in this A-B comparison example, I think I used 90% on the Flatline plugin on the shape button. So this is just to showcase how the different limiters sound like compared to the Flatline plugin. And these masters are set at minus 10.5 LUFS, and they have all been measured so they have the exact same volume. So we start with the original unlimited mix and then go through them all. Okay, so that is how they all sound like. And like I said before, if you are interested, you can download both these loops and also a longer clip which have the intro, the verse and the chorus with vocals. Okay, so that was my little comparison. To come to some sort of conclusion, I definitely think that Flatline came on top over its competitors, with Kclip3 coming close second. The only thing I felt was that Flatline was a tiny bit more punchy than Kclip, but Kclip on the other hand have a couple of nice features that I definitely think that Flatline should include in their interface, such as an output ceiling and also some dithering options. But other than that, it sounded awesome. The other two limiters, the L2 and Ozone9, definitely felt like the worst. Not by a large margin, but you could definitely hear some weird things going on in the stereo field and in the cymbals. But mind you, these clips were not being pushed that hard, so I imagine it would sound even worse if we have pushed it a few dBs more. So the transparency of the Flatline seems like a winner. And like Ermin said in his own tutorial, that you should really have fixed things in the mix. This is not a fix-it-all kind of limiter. If your mix sounds great and is balanced, you will have great results using the Flatline plugin. So yeah, that is all for today's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed this comparison and test. And if you like this kind of content, please hit subscribe and give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you around.